Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us. Welcome back. Well, I am delighted to have back with us today Dr. Lawrence Gelman. We've had him on before, and I have a copy of his book, and I started reading it, and I go, whoa, this man has really done his homework. He's the author of a book called The Fall from Grace. He is a South Texas-based physician, hospital administrator. He's a conservative activist, media personality. He has his own show, the Dr. Lawrence Gelman Show. And today we want to get into some areas in this book. His website, if you want to check him out, is talkbackonline.com. talkbackonline.com. So a good way to communicate with him and to get a copy of the book. We had a picture of it there on the screen. It's a big book. Boy, I don't know where he found the time being a doctor and to write this book at the same time, but he's done a wonderful job. Dr. Gelman, nice to see you, my friend. How are you doing today?
Fine. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, great. Listen, this is fascinating. By the way, for those who are seeing you and hearing you for the first time, what made you take this book on? What made you write it?
I was doing a radio program, and I would discuss these issues, and so I would prepare the different segments, and I accumulated a number of them together, and enough. They just kept expanding.
Okay, we're having just a little bit of a technical problem with them. Let me do this. We're going to try to see if we can reconnect with him and get him back here. Sorry about that. We had a little bit of a Skype problem. And we'll get him here in just a moment and get that straightened out. Let me let you know that the book is entitled, it's big. This is a tremendous resource called The Fall from Grace, Lawrence Gelman, MD. It's self-published, and you may want to check it out at his website, talkbackonline.com. And you can get a copy of the book today. And so we apologize for that little bit of an interruption. I think we have you back, Dr. Gelman. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Let's move on. There is an article today, WND has put it out, maybe you have seen it, that the Democrats now are pushing for an unrestricted abortion bill in the Senate. In fact, it's called the Anti-Hobby Lobby Bill. And basically what they're saying and they're pushing for, they think this is going to be a campaign issue for them. It's Senate Bill 1696 that basically says no restrictions on any abortion whatsoever, and our tax dollars will pay for it. This is clearly the Anti-Hobby Lobby Bill. Now, you write in your book, The Right to Murder the Innocent, Roe versus Wade, 1973. Do you think Roe versus Wade will ever be addressed again in a meaningful way in the court system?
I don't know, but I think it's important. It will be if the American people actually read the decision. The problem with the way this is all presented is that people look at the Roe v. Wade as something that's a permanent fixture. And everything is based against the title Roe v. Wade without anyone actually reading the decision. I think the key is for the American people to be educated in the Roe v. Wade decision itself. That's critical because the decision is nonsensical, both at the level of science and constitutionality. And we can go into that in greater depth.
Yeah, I'd like to have you do that because in your chapter, you're saying that it's junk law and junk science, and therefore it should have never made it to the Supreme Court level.
That's exactly correct. Of course, the Supreme Court has no authority over such issues to begin with, but I guess that's going to be another program. You know, when I was a medical student, I really was kind of neutral on the issue. I kind of bought into the, live and let live. Whatever you want to do, whatever. I was opposed to it personally, but if that's what you wanted to do, that was fine. But, you know, I'd always hear this statement that that abortion, and we need to start using terminology correctly. The term abortion in this issue is really wrong. It should be the abortion of the life of the undelivered infant. There's all kinds of definition changes which we need to do in order to make people understand. One is that born is not delivery. Born is the moment of conception. And we need to start looking at things scientifically properly. And so when they were saying that the infant is part of the mother, I knew as a physician that's nonsense. The infant is no more part of the mother than you and I are part of our mothers today. What's part of the mother has the mother's same genetic makeup. The baby has an independent in utero has an independent genetic makeup. It is not part of the mother. The mother's organs are there at birth, at delivery. When the mother is born, technically everything is already there, at least genetically. When the mother is delivered, the woman is delivered, she has all her organs, okay? An infant in the uterus is not one of those organs. Every organ of the mother, every cell in the body, every blood cell, every red and white cell, every cell of the kidney, the liver, the brain, has the same genetic structure of the mother. The baby's genetic structure is different. The baby is not and never was part of the mother. In fact, if the circulation of the baby mixes with the circulation of the mother, that is a potentially lethal situation. So even their circulations are completely separate. Their blood types are separate. And so that is just one. So I knew that if this is an argument, if this is a linchpin argument by the pro-choice movement, that the baby's part of the mother and therefore the mother has the right to do with the baby as she pleases, I knew that was a lie. And if one of your arguments is a lie, maybe your other arguments are a lie. Now, I cannot prove life is sacred. I would like to be able to do that, but I can't. We hope that's true, but we can't prove it. However, what we can show is that every argument used by the pro-choice lobby, and I don't mean 90%, I mean 100% of their arguments are lie. And so our point of view, but if we can disprove their point of view, we can still win the argument.
All right.
And so, yes.
Well, excuse me. This is powerful. Do your colleagues in medicine get what you just said?
Some do, some don't. Unfortunately, to show you how things are, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology term abortions and submitted an opinion to the Supreme Court when they were deciding the constitutionality of late-term abortions. They submitted an opinion that it should be permitted. So clearly, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology is much more similar to the physicians in Nazi Germany than they are to our founding principles.
All right. One other quick question along these lines before I take a break. Why is it always then said it's women's health? Why is it a women's health issue?
It's not a women's health emergency in which the mother, that's very commonly known. The solution to, if it's due directly to the presidency and the pregnancy needs to be terminated because of a health issue with the mother, you only have to end the pregnancy. You don't have to kill the undelivered infant. It's the pregnancy, not the infant, that's causing the problem. Therefore, by terminating the pregnancy, which we do all the time, we do premature termination of pregnancy, both for issues of mother's health and infant's health. And you do a premature termination of pregnancy, which is perfectly legitimate, and you deliver the baby, a viable baby, and the baby is not killed. So there are no health issues. There are no health issues in the woman that require the intentional killing of the undelivered infant. Wow. There are instances, the infant may die because of extreme prematurity, but that allow nature to take its course. But the intentional killing of the undelivered infant in the name of mother's health is a lie, is scientifically false, and is just it is the biggest lie that is presented by the pro-choice movement.
All right, let me take a quick break. We'll be right back. Dr. Lawrence Gelman's with us today. The book is entitled The Fall from Grace. You may want to check it out by going to his website, and that's talkbackonline.com. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is Dr. Lawrence Gelman. He's the author of this incredible book called The Fall from Grace, and you can check it out at his website, talkbackonline.com. It's a very comprehensive book about a lot of things, and I think one of the things he covers in the book that's also very fascinating is when and how did the U.S. Supreme Court usurp control of the Constitution. That's probably a four-segment show on itself, but it does relate to a little bit what's going on here as we're talking about Roe versus Wade, which is one of the chapters in his book there towards the end of the book. Dr. Gelman, we saw this come back to forefront again with the Hobby Lobby decision by the Supreme Court. In the meantime, as I mentioned earlier, the U.S. Senate now is proposing a bill. It's called the Anti-Hobby Lobby Bill. What's your take on the Supreme Court decision?
The Supreme Court has no authority to be involved in such decisions, and I think once we accept the fact that they do have that authority, we've lost. Because even if the decision appears to go in our favor, which is the constitutional view, if we accept that as legitimate, then we have to accept the other decisions which go against us as well. So I prefer not to. I did read the decision, as I always do, and it's, even though it went in our favor, supposedly, it's still nonsensical, because basically what the court says is that your rights stop when the government says so. In the very first paragraph written by the justice, it says that everything is okay unless it's against a compelling government interest.
Wow. Wow. Okay, we apologize for this, folks. We got a little bit of a Skype problem with.
Therefore, they just make things up, so they're not. It's not legitimate. But what I would like to do is I want to look at the pillar of this entire movement, which is the Roe v. Wade decision. And I'd like to point out a few things in the decision, of the many things which show you the absurdity of the decision.
Go for it.
For one thing, they say that there's a right to privacy in the Constitution, and that allows the mother to kill the undelivered infant because it's her private affair. There is no right to privacy in the Constitution. The Constitution says that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, places, houses, and effects against unreasonable searches shall not be violated. And no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the people or things to be seized. There is no right to privacy. Clearly, if there was a right to privacy, that would allow murder done in an individual's home to be isolated from the law. So there is no right to privacy, which is a linchpin of the Roe v. Wade decision. Also, in the Roe v. Wade decision, it says that the undelivered, that the in utero infant is not a person. It says that, and so. If you have to, then what is the undelivered infant? What is the baby in utero if not a person? So the Supreme Court says that the in utero infant is not a person. Why does it say that? Because the Fifth Amendment guarantees the right of due process to every person. And so therefore, that would require that before you can kill an undelivered infant, that infant has the right to due process. In order to avoid the right to due process, which would mean that the baby would have someone to defend the baby, their own attorney before a court to defend the baby, in order to avoid that, you have to say that the baby is not a person. Who believes that? They also say that they also create a definition of abortion, which is not a true definition. The definition of abortion created by the Supreme Court says the abortion is with the abortion in this instance is the termination of pregnancy with something other than a viable birth. That's not what abortion means. Abortion means the termination of something before the ending of something before termination or maturity. You can prematurely or abort pregnancy by premature termination of pregnancy without necessarily killing the in utero infant. What they're doing is they're combining the termination of pregnancy and the termination of life and combining that into one definition. That is not legitimate. The other things that they do is they classify an infant differently based on the trimester, as if a 13-week gestation is different than a sense. What mother, what human being will actually believe that an infant at 13 weeks gestation is somehow intrinsically different than an infant at 14 weeks gestation, or that an infant at 13 weeks gestation is different than the newly delivered infant? But this is the kind of nonsense that is the entire Roe v. Wade decision. They go back and they look at Aristotelian philosophy. They even make this. They make some ridiculous statements that says that conception. Get this. They say conception is not an event, but a process. And can you believe that? This is what is the nonsense that is in the Roe v. Wade decision. And there's a lot more of it if we had the time to do it. But what I'm saying is that the entire decision is a lie, it's unconstitutional, and scientifically false. And this is the basis of everything that the government does. This is a non-legitimate government. The Senate bill you're talking about is completely unconstitutional. These people are Nazis. And that's what we need to realize, that this that the pro of Nazis, it is the same philosophy, the exact same philosophy. The only difference is that into our government and half of our population says that the in utero infant is a non-entity and has no rights. That's exactly what the Nazis said about the Jews in Germany. They passed a law. It was a law. It wasn't an edict. They passed a law that said that the Jew is a non-entity. The German Jew is a non-entity in Germany. And it's exactly the same way of thinking. It's the same way of thinking. So they're saying that the in utero infant is not a person, is not worthy of rights. It's not worthy of that the life of the in utero infant is going to be dependent upon the mother, as if the mother owns, as if the mother can kill simply because it's her child. Well, if the mother can kill the infant because it's her child and she's taking care of it, then in utero, then there's no reason to say that the mother cannot kill. Identical. They're killing the infant because of convenience of the mother. Well, if your teenager is inconvenient, go ahead and kill your teenager. So, I mean, that's the same logic. So, so this decision, Roe v. Wade decision, is scientifically untenable. Okay, untenable. The baby's not part, the infant is not part of the mother. And it's constitutionally a lie because the infant is a person and has the right to due process. Furthermore, there is no right to privacy, and every other thing that is in this decision is complete nonsense, including the making up of definitions like abortion and what defines a person.
Wow, that's powerful, Dr. Gelman. Thank you for sharing that. And by the way, a lot of that is covered in his book that we're talking about here today. And you can get a copy of that, The Fall from Grace, at talkbackonline.com. Dr. Gelman, I'm very short on time now, but I'm going to ask you a tough question. Your colleagues who go through medical school, do all the training, do all of this, what is it in a doctor that they can kill a baby even at 9 months? What happens in the mind and the heart of another human being that they could pull that baby out of the womb and kill it?
In the 1920s and 30s, it was widely considered true that the greatest doctors in the world were German. in Germany. Yet what happened to them that allowed them to do experiments on human beings, to do abortions, to kill, even though they're members of the medical profession? There is nothing different about a doctor as far as their humanity, as far as their psychology, as to anyone else. If you're brought up to believe that the in utero infant is not a person, that the mother has the right of life or death over her child, and you just accept it. The doctor is not a moral individual, okay? The doctor is a technician, okay? We're supposed to be upholding life, but the Hippocratic Oath was also administered to the doctors in Germany. The doctors in Germany were brought up exactly the same way. The doctors in the Soviet Union that incarcerated dissidents in psychiatric hospitals and gave them drugs in order so that they were brain numbed or whatever. I mean, those are also physicians. So let's not look at physicians as somehow being of a higher moral persuasion. Like I say, the very fact that the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, which is the profession of delivering babies and taking care of babies and their mothers, comes out in support of late-term abortion. I mean, come on. So let's.
Okay, we apologize. We've had some Skype problems and connections, and I apologize for that. And I send my best to Dr. Gelman. And again, I encourage you. You may want to check out his book. You can tell that he's a very comprehensive thinker. And there's several chapters of the book that deals with the U.S. Supreme Court usurping control over the Constitution. Some people will ask the big question, how in the world did America get to where it is and so far from where it was? Well, I think what he's done here, he's done an incredible job of going into some of those areas, whether it's legal, whether it's scientific, constitutional. Those are the three areas. So check it out. It's called Fall from Grace, Dr. Lawrence Gelman. And the website is talkbackonline.com, talkbackonline.com. And the book, it's big. Look how big it is. I'll hold it up to you. It's a very big book, and called The Fall from Grace. All right, thanks. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.